bought this thing for about $2,000 delivered. It was delivered to my front door, my garage door, on a lift truck with a lift gate. Since I've had it, no real problems. It's definitely powerful. It's definitely got good suspension. It's definitely easy with ease of maintenance. You know, you're only dealing with a 200 and maybe 30, 225. It kind of depends. 230 cc's. They haven't really nailed that down yet in the specs. But it's definitely in the middle, I guess I would say, in power range, between a 125 and a 250. The current motorcycles, current motocrossers that are definitely, you know, the Ferraris of dirt bikes. This is not that. I would put this down on the lower level of that, maybe like the Hyundai or something like that. You know, it's definitely not the fastest, not the most powerful, but gets the job done. About me, I'm a 54-year-old in January, former motocrosser. Used to have many dirt bikes, but hadn't had one since about 2004. Trying to get back into it, having a good time doing that. Definitely not going to be cranking it out on the motocross track like I did in the past, but for the trails, riding around, this gets it done. And that is why I'm making this video. Dollar for dollar, this really gets it done. The suspension, I mean, I've had this since October and really haven't been able to ride it on trails all that often. I've actually driven it. I live in North Carolina. I've ridden it on North Carolina Motor Sports Park in Henderson. You can find it all over YouTube. It's a very popular motocross park. Of course, I'm not tripling, I'm not doing the big doubles, but the decent sized tabletops, the whoops, the corners, you know, just handling the terrain itself, it's been fine. I also have taken it out 2 times through the trails, approximately an hour loop each time. And then one other, the very first ride, I'll get into it a little bit more, but I had a breakdown, and really not necessarily the bike's fault per se. And like I said, I'll touch on it a little bit later when I start going over the whole bike. But so initially getting back into riding, I was wanting to get, my thoughts were a 250 2-stroke, because that's previously what I had been riding for many years. Had CRs, had a YZ, but the thing about it was the cost. Even an older one, like let's say I was looking in the range between 2001 and 2005, and everything in my area was around at least minimally $2,500 for anything decent. If you went less than that, you were getting stuff that you totally would have to rebuild. So I saw this, came across on an ad on my Facebook, and looked into it some more, started investigating the engines, started investigating what people had to say, and unfortunately there's not a lot out here. It's partially the reason I'm making this video. But what I did find out was all pretty positive. People are saying a lot of good things about these, particularly the engine. It seems to be, I may be wrong on this, people can correct me in the comments about it. It seems to be a Honda CRF 230 clone. Anyways about it, it's definitely an older Honda clone, copy if you will, whatever you want to call it. But the gearing seems to be, the internal transmission gearing seems to be really good for off-road. People have told me that they also make these for the street. And with the smaller, I don't know if you can see my hand, but I'm pointing down to the rear sprocket. The rear sprocket right now, I have the stock sprocket on there, and I think it's a 43, and it's definitely low. I've ordered new sprockets, they haven't come in yet. And I know for a fact this thing it'll do 70 miles an hour, and it's only a 5-speed. So it's definitely geared wrong necessarily for that, but at the same time, riding it on the motocross track, the first 3 gears, particularly third, I'm able to lug it around the motocross track no problem. And I think when I up the gearing in the rear, I'm hoping to go to ordered a 48 tooth rear. I'm thinking that's going to tighten it up a bit, but it'll also extend third and fourth gear. So I think I'll be right in the sweet spot, no problems, and it's got plenty of torque. I've done hill climbs, I want to say like 40-degree angle, pretty steep stuff. Lugging them up there, no problems, not even dabbing my feet. I was blown away by that. I had ridden a KDX 220 back in the 90s, and it reminded me a lot of that. And I would actually even say that this bike power per gear is very similar to that. To give you comparisons, everyone likes to compare things. So far at the motocross track and on the trails at North Carolina Motorsports Park, I have come across 2 people that had the CRF 230s, and I blew them away. So the specs are going to tell you this thing's about 17 horsepower. I'm not buying it. It's got to be in the 20s. I left those guys 5 bike lengths by the time I got 5th gear in straight drags. And one guy followed me around on the track itself, and he couldn't even keep up with me at all. I left him corners easily. So while definitely not CRF 250R type power, those bikes probably have 30, maybe even close to 40 horsepower. This will get the job done. It's not that bad, especially for a beginner, and especially for a budget-minded person like myself, someone who's getting back into riding. It won't get you hurt on a motocross track if you ride within your means. That's the big thing. Don't think you can get on here and start tripling it. It's definitely heavy. This bike probably goes about 270 pounds, 267, and myself, I'm 190 on a good day, 195 on a bad day. So it can pull my weight around no problem. I think ideally, I set the sag on this and was told that it was set. The spring rates were at the top end of the spring rate would be 185 pounds. They're looking for someone between 165 and 185 spring rates. I changed the fluids. The lower transmission fluid. I've changed the fluids in the fork and the shock. These are not standard. Nobody has any specs on them, so I couldn't get any kind of revalves or any springs. That's kind of the problem with having something new like these Chinese bikes are. There's nobody out there who's really seen them that much. But hopefully as more of them come onto the market, more people buy them, we can get some more support. I'm a member of Thumper Talk. It's a very good forum. If you go under China Bikes and look for RXB 250s, you'll see a big posting. I think it's in the 70 pages now. People have really been supporting it since early October, or actually even May of last year when I started seeing it. I encourage you to go there, look at all the pages. Don't just look at the last page. Go through it. See what you feel about it before you make a purchase like this. But for $2,000, you're not going to get, man, if you bought a YZ250, if you could find one, they're even hard to find, but if you could find one for like $2,000, you'd spend another $2,000 fixing up a bike that's 15 years old, if you can find a good one. So brand new, to your house, less than $2,000, good power, not the greatest. The cons, it's heavy. That's probably the worst con that there is, really. It's hard to get over that power to weight ratio. Suspension is great. I would say it's on par with the Japanese bikes. Stock. you know, you might want to do your modifications, but stock clickers work well, and you got compression and rebound on front and back. Tires, stock tires are good. I would replace them. They're light, with lighter tires. You know, anything new that you would get, like a Maxxis or a Kenda, you know, Dunlops. I prefer Dunlops. Breakstones. They're all going to be lighter than these, but for what they come with, they're good intermediate tires, and I'm not changing mine until they wear out. Just no point in it. Grips are good. Bars are great. Fenders are, all the plastic is KTM stuff. 2014 is kind of what a couple of us have figured out, kind of 2014 area. KTM 250, 125 plastics. Seat is KTM. Frame is basically a KTM. It's not exactly the same size. It's definitely not exactly the same swing arm. But the linkage and everything is kind of similar. Same kind of spring rates. What else can I tell you about? A lot of, you know, all your accessory kind of stuff. If you want to get grips, bars, pads, throttle cables, graphics, exhaust. Some things are Honda stuff. Like I noticed the front brake rotor is Honda, but the rear caliber I've been told is KTM. So some things are kind of mismatched. It is an electric start, which is a super plus. I've taken off my Kickstarter. I don't see the point in it. It didn't work all that well anyways in the stroke. It kind of hit the foot peg. So electric start, starts right up, no problem. Easy, turns right over. I don't know if you can hear that, but it'll start right up. I switched my carburetor. I got a Mikuni style copy clone. Koso is the name of the company that I ended up using. 32 millimeter. It's an advanced upgrade. You really have to know. You really have had to have worked on motorcycles to get that to fit in there, get that to fit into the air boot and into the intake side boot. It was a total pain. I learned a whole bunch of new cuss words trying to make that work. But once I got it to work, this thing flows so much better from the mid up. I did have to jet it. It took me a little while to figure that out. But standard Mikuni jets that you can buy all over Amazon, the carburetor itself wasn't even that expensive. It was less than $40. So that was a plus. I would suggest if you have mechanical abilities and have done dirt bikes, it's a big improvement. It definitely will help your mid to top, and your off idle. Mine, when it came, was a little, with the stock carburetor, was a little boggy on the bottom. Had a hard time coming out of corners. I switched to the carb that I have now, the 32 millimeter, and huge improvement. Huge improvement. Didn't have to worry about, you know, coming out of a corner and it being bogged too rich. Now, if anything, I'm running a little bit rich on the top end, but not when you feel it coming out of corners. I'm just looking at the spark plug. So I'm just going to grab the camera. I'm going to kind of walk around and show you a little bit. There's other walk arounds, but I'm just going to show you mine. It's not very clean, but yeah, here we go. So, as you can see, it's got upside down forks, Honda style brakes, pretty good, not that quality as far as pucker power, but braided steel line, which I was really surprised about. I had to change my front wheel, and here's the story behind that. From the start, they tell you to go through everything, and I would tell anybody, make sure you go through every nut and bolt. I kind of thought that this would be done from Orion in Texas. Is the Orion Power Sports is who I ordered this from, and I ordered it assembled, assuming that they would have gone over everything. And yeah, I always anticipate having to do something after our first ride, but I ended up having to. I destroyed a rim, my front rim, because they didn't tighten every spoke, and I went through and, you know, did this, and they were okay, but they didn't last through my first ride. I went out on the trails and destroyed the front rim and had to get another one. And while I went to them, and I'm not going to badmouth Orion, I think that, like I said, dollar for dollar, you're getting a good value here, the best around, I believe. I don't think you find anything close to this for $2,000. But having said that, they did not warranty my rim, which I anticipated that they would. They offered me the ability to buy a new one, but at the cost of me replacing the Tusk, going to a Tusk rim and spokes. It was the same price. Why wouldn't I go with a better rim? This rim is aluminum. The spokes are thicker. The stock one was steel. So, like I said, a lot of the things that make this thing heavy are because of cost. You get steel rims. You get, I don't know, some kind of, maybe not magnesium, but some kind of metal that's not, you don't get aluminum hubs or CNC hubs. You know, you're getting heavier hubs, you're getting steel rims, steel spokes, stock tires. So here, let me show you the rim that happened. So that's my bent rim. Totally crazy. I can't believe it flatted so bad and got so crazy. So if you buy one of these, make sure you definitely go ahead and tighten up your spokes right from the beginning. Okay, so as I'm moving forward anyways, upside down forks. I think the quality is good on those. The bottom ring resistance is good, especially even on a motocross track. They do have steel internals, which makes them heavy. The Honda clone engine. I have the Mikuni carburetor on there. Good foot pegs. Comes with a Kickstarter. I took that kickstand. I took that off. Good shock. KTM plastics. Decent chain. I mean, it hasn't really stretched or given me any problems. It's a 520. Steel sprocket. It's crap. Replace that as soon as you can. I got mine on order too. Rear disc brakes. Definitely good stopping rear brakes. I was surprised how good they were. Big silencer. People have told me this thing is super heavy. I haven't weighed it. I will replace that at some point. And yeah. Quarter turn throttle. I mean, it is super responsive. Good brakes. Honda type clones for front brake. Clutch, good good quality levers. Actually, I haven't replaced them because I've actually liked them. The clutch pull is not bad at all. You get electric start. Comes with 2 keys. Yeah, so that's it. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. I'm not the expert, but there are a lot of other people in, like I said, the Thumper Talk forums that can help. And yeah, that's it, guys. Have a good one. Thanks for looking.